I wanted to make some kind of like worlds video, right? Because for example, I want to talk about drafting and stuff. I want to talk about like, the basics of the worlds meta, because I feel like a lot of people still are confused about like how some things work in like the professional level. If you do, please talk about lane swapping. It confuses me so much. So number one, for some reason, there's no games being queued up right now. What the heck? What's going on? Let's first talk about drafting, all right? The idea of drafting. Why did the Shy pick Rise first, right? You know, why did they ban Bard 5 times in a row? All that good stuff, right? Yada, yada, yada. The easiest way to think about drafting, if you have no idea how it goes, is just think about it like a cooking competition, all right? This is the best analogy I can make about drafting in general. Let's say, for example, instead of choosing 5 different champions for like a good comp, you're trying to make like a sandwich. You're trying to cook up some kind of recipe that the judges will like. But the weird part is you can only choose one ingredient at a time. Let's say that the rice pick is like bread. Bread's like a really good start because it's going to be pretty much applicable in a lot of different recipes. Like you can go from bread to like meat, you know, to like vegetables, into like sauces, right? You can like kind of go down the list. And bread will always be kind of like that base where you develop your team comp around. The only weird thing about this thing is that one side chooses bread, the other side has to choose something else, right? Like you can't choose the same ingredient as the other chef. The other side, they know your recipe, right? They did the research. They know that, oh, this guy started with bread. He's going to want to make a sandwich. So to kind of screw them over, they start with like cheese. So they choose ingredients that they think that the other chef is going to use to like kind of limit the possibilities that they can put in their own recipe. So pretty much to counter the bread, they put down cheese. Like what's another ingredient that goes in a sandwich that goes good with cheese? So I'm just giving an example. So ham, right? T1 knows that IG wants to make a sandwich because they chose bread first. So they're going to try to take away the cheese and the ham. Now IG has to figure out what can we do to pivot. So now instead of making like a sandwich, now because they like did their preparation, they can go for something else, right? So now they're going for the hot dog pivot. They originally wanted to make a sandwich, but because their cheese and ham got taken away, now they're going to pivot into a hot dog, which you can still make with bread. So now we have sausage, and we got like pickles, I don't know. We got like the support ingredients. And then now T1 has the option of, do they want to continue with their ingredients well, or do they want to screw over the enemy team more? Just imagine 2 chefs going at it. You want to go into the draft with multiple recipes in mind. And depending on what ingredients are taken away from you, you have to replace that ingredient or just change the food you have entirely. We're in fearless pick, which means every game, 10 champions are going to be gone from the entire pool of champions you can use. There's no more bread. There's no more ham. There's no more cheese. We've already chosen those in the previous game. So now the chefs have to cook up something fucking weird. After all that thought, eventually they decide to go with Vera's top. They decided to go Vera's top because they were out of ingredients. This kind of pick could be explained to the idea of lane swapping, which we're going to get to next. Even if like a pick looks really weird, they chose it for a reason, right? They chose it because they have some kind of game plan. Like, oh, no, I swear, I put ketchup in this clam chowder once and it was pretty good. You know, like they have something that they tested beforehand to make them think that it was doable. Like it's kind of one of those, you have to taste it to believe it kind of things every now and then. Don't get me wrong, like every now and then some people cook too hard and they make the most inedible food known to mankind. But it all depends on how well you can apply it into your recipe that will lead to the outcome of if you win or lose. So yeah, now that we talked about that, let's talk about the idea of lane swapping, all right? Everyone's probably confused, especially if you're like new to League of Legends. So how do you lane swap in 2025? Let me just bring up the wiki here. Detection is active from 1:30 and ends at 2:15 in the middle lane and 4 in the top lane, all right? Pretty much Riot want to make sure that there aren't lane swaps because they want to have like the 2v2 epic bot lane showdown, right? And the epic 1v1 top lane showdown for viewers and stuff or whatever. So they added restrictions so that besides junglers, other laners couldn't go to a lane before a specific time frame. Pretty much like towers did like infinite damage if it detected a lane swap. Until 2:15, you couldn't go mid lane, and until 4 minutes, you couldn't go top lane. If you want to lane swap a 2v2 bot lane into like a 1v2, previously what you did was you sent both of your ADC and your support top lane, and then you send your top lane bot lane. That was the 2024 meta of lane swaps. But in today's current meta, because you can't do that anymore, because, you know, obviously you have 2 players that aren't the jungler going top, so that would trigger the lane swap detection. What the current meta is you actually send your ADC top. You send your ADC to top lane by themselves, and you keep your top laner and your support bot lane. Where now instead of both bot laners going top, you pretty much send only your ADC top lane to soak up EXP, while The support and the top laner just keep each other alive in the bot lane for a few minutes until they can switch back. You can't go 215 mid and you can't go top until 4 minutes. So the support's there to keep the top laner alive at bot lane for the first few minutes of the game. At 215, the support roams mid and stays mid until around 4 minutes, which then he goes top. The entire point is to make sure that none of your team dies. That's literally it. So the support stays bot to keep the top laner alive until 2 minutes so that the top laner doesn't get zoned 1v2 and like gets 3-man Dovin. And then he goes mid to just like kind of just there for fun. He's like kind of creating pressure mid, helps with mid lane push out. You know, maybe recall fast for like a tier, right? For a fast tier for scaling. And then he goes back top to make sure that the ADC doesn't die afterwards for level 3 gank. You want a lane swap if you're under a disadvantage. That's literally it. When you're in a bad 2v2 matchup or like a 1v1 matchup, like either one. Like just looking at this this current comp. So right now you have Caitlyn and Karma versus Rakan and Misfortune, right? Who do you think is going to win this 2v2 in the bot lane? Caitlyn has crazy range. Karma has crazy poke. And unless like Misfortune gets a random Q bounce on the minions, she's not going to do any damage back. Right? And like Rakan is just there for support. He's not going to do damage himself. The T1 bot lane are probably going to lose the early 2v2. That they want to avoid 2v2ing as much as possible. For the most part, the top lane is always going to be some kind of like melee champion, right? An ADC top lane is going to be able to, for the most part, farm pretty comfortably against a melee champion until like maybe 4 minutes, 5 minutes when you can swap back. You have the added benefit of you have a 1v1 matchup now where your ADC is not getting zoned away from EXP. And also your top laner is not going to get immediately Dovin on because your support's there to keep him alive. But the one thing you have to worry about is that until exactly 4 minutes, you can't walk within range of the top lane or else you're going to trigger the lane detection still. If you watch Carrier right now, you're going to see that he doesn't actually go into lane. He just kind of like goes back after like shimmying there because he can't walk up into the zone. But eventually Rakan does go top, right? Like Carrier actually did meet up back with ADC top lane for a 1v2. So depending on how the current game is going, like if the enemy jungler is going for 6 camp clear into bot lane gank, or if they're going for like a counter invade, the support has to kind of react based on where he thinks that the biggest threat's going to be and just neutralize it. They're pretty much just waiting for the ADC to scale and get to mid game because that's when all the team fighting is going to happen. Whichever team can get out of a disadvantageous matchup for as long as possible until they scale enough where the matchup doesn't really matter. So it's like, what's the disadvantage of doing that lane swap? So why do you not want a lane swap? Even though you get out of a 2v2 bot lane in like a bad matchup, trading tower plating gold from the bot lane with the ability to keep your ADC ahead. Because in most professional games, the ADC is going to have way more of an impact than like any other laners. They value making their ADC not zoned out from the early game, right? Most top laners are just going to be the tank, the frontline tank to peel for your team. Back to the draft, all right? Oh my God, there's so many things to talk about. I was going to make a video about this, but I didn't have time, so I'm just doing like a very impromptu, random talk along about this. T1 chooses Yunara, IG counter with a Vi Rumble, very strong topside. T1 chooses Galio Zinzao, okay? In my eyes, this was a complete mind game. IG already have like their top laner, they have their jungler, and they have their mid laner, right? Like, I'm pretty sure they want to go Smolder mid. And because T1 already chose Galio, Faker's gonna go Galio, right? They had their ADC, they had the jungler, and they also have their mid lane. So we're gonna go Smolder mid to be able to like farm safely against this guy and whatnot. So after IG picks Leona support, Carrier goes Renata, right? To counter the Leona. But look at the last pick of T1. IG thought that Galio was a mid laner, which is why they went Smolder. But T1 chose Annie. So they used Galio as like a bluff. They used him as like a triple flex of like he can go support, top, or mid. But they changed it up by sending a very bursty assassin kind of like mage champion Annie. And now IG have to react on the fly because Annie can just flash Tibbers to Smolder at any point in the lane and just delete him in one shot. So now instead of sending the Smolder mid, IG had to now send Smolder bot lane as the ADC. And now they have to choose a mid lane to counter the Annie. T1 kind of like, by using flexible picks, they kind of made IG change their game plan mid-draft. There's no world we're going to send our squishy ADC that scales against a very burst-heavy stun champion like Annie. There was like a lot of mind games happening. Like, I could just be talking on my ass, but that's what I saw. Like, that's why Fearless is so entertaining because you have so many weird things that wouldn't ever see the light of day. You have like ADCs going mid, you know, you have like Varus top for whatever reason. You know, it's like, in my eyes, right, in the competitive environment, T1 probably has an advantage in the 2v2 bot lane. So IG wants to lane swap, where they want to send Smolder top lane to 1v1 against their top laner. Look what IG does, okay? They're pretending like they're going to go for the regular 2v2. for the first few seconds of the game. But around the 1 minute mark, like right before the lanes are about to start, they're gonna send their top laner to recall and also their bot lane to recall. Like misdirection. You have a Smolder that scales with the more stacks he gets. But because he's against like a melee champion top lane Galio, he's gonna always scale, right? Like now he has no pressure of the carrier Gumayushi 2v2 bot lane of like not being able to farm anything. Now he's gonna very comfortably farm top. So what is the right move? Well, it's like there's no right move. It's just what the teams put value over. IG want to put value putting their Smolder top lane. T1's pretty much accepting that Smolder's gonna scale with the added benefit of, oh yeah, we can just take some tower planings maybe. They're both valid strategies if you want a 2v2 or if you want to just lane swap and get like a small advantage that way. It's literally just a reaction game on which side's gonna outread the other side first. As T1, how do you punish a lane swap? This is how you punish a lane swap. You 3-man dive bot. If the support thinks the ADC is gonna get ganked, then he goes top. If he thinks that the bot lane's gonna get dived on, then he goes bot. And you can see here, right? It's like IG probably knows that they're gonna dive bot, right? Because number one, the shot's getting super low. So you'll see Leona recall immediately to go back home and sprint towards bot to prevent this 3-man dive happening. You also have to be like very flexible in how fast you react to changes in the map. But you can see that even though Leona got here in time, Rumble's still too low to make it work. And T1 gets like a very clean dive off. It's pretty much the exact same thing that happened last year, except with additional sets because of the new detection system thing. Do you think T1 would win harder if they read Smolder lane swapping by top and sending Annie to top in response? So it's like, that's a risk in itself. What if you send Annie top and then what if they don't lane swap, right? Like for the most part, the mid lane is always going to want to stay mid. There's not really a reason to overcomplicate things and send everyone everywhere differently just to react. One more thing I want to talk about is the Varus pick. I feel like people were confused about why the Shy went Varus. Like, why would you go Varus top in the potentially final game of the series? I'm not gonna lie, I honestly thought it was to counter the potential lane swap, right? They're assuming that Gumayushi is going to go top in the lane swap, so they don't really want to go like a very tanky champion against Ashe, obviously, right? Because Ashe can just kite them for years. They chose another ranged champion to account for the 1v1 ADC top lane. That's what I thought they did. I don't know, right? Until we get the actual comms, none of us will know what's going on, but that's just my theory. But I also agree that there are probably better picks than Varus, right? Because you're choosing Varus against a Nocturne, Ashe ult, Ornn ult, right? But on the other hand, imagine if your Varus gets a bit fed, he's level 6. Like now Ashe has like no way to escape because he's immobile. If Faker goes in for a weird W and Varus manages to get the ult off on Faker while he's dashing in, then like there's nothing Faker can do either, right? There was a lot of potential things that they could have done. So here, they're doing... Dude, when I saw this, I was like laughing so hard. I was like, what is happening? So IG go for the YOLO Autocon flip. Rookie gets the Ashe ultimate. And it's like, okay, now they're flanking. All right, the fight starts. It honestly looks really good for T1, but then Gumayushi gets freaking... Okay, wait, why did frost? What the heck? Why just freeze? No? Well, anyways, Gumayushi dies. Because Gumiyushi's dead, now T1 are like, oh god, wait, we're actually losing the fight. So they start running away. Both T1 and IG are in a really weird spot where they're like, should we recall or should we, you know, go for something? T1 start teleporting back. But then, like, Mako also teleports back with the spellbook. And now, like, part 2 of the fight starts again. It's like, everyone's flashing around. Everyone's slowly coming back out of death. So now everyone's teleporting back again. But now the rest of T1 are back. So now, like, it's like, bro, it's like, it went from T1 looking like they're winning to IG looking like they're winning to IG getting another pick. And now they're up ahead. But then they just... They re-engage again after everyone comes back from death, like, for the 3rd time. But now, they actually kill everyone off. Like, dude, literally for 2 minutes straight, both teams were, like, not really killing each other, but they were killing each other. They just, like, did barely enough damage for everyone to, like, keep wanting to fight.